The start of this season has been all about speed, and today's race will be no exception. In fact, Monza's most famous nickname is that of the Temple of Speed. Which of our drivers will successfully worship Our Lady of Blessed Acceleration? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. A lap around Monza in this, guys, will be a short one, so why don't we spend a little more time checking it out with our track guide. Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well-known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years. Well, Monza is pretty familiar to most race fans, Joey, but this one takes a bit of an interesting twist on it.
We don't have that front straightaway chicane. Only 9 turns in the format that we are going to run today. 3.5 miles, just a tick over 5.5 kilometers. And it is going to be all about that top speed. Trim the thing out and make sure you can hang on to it in these other slower chicane areas. Pretty much turn 2, 3 chicane, and then you also have the Lesmos. When you have that lower downforce, you're really going to have to hang on to it through those medium speed corners. And then also watch out for Ascari, specifically the first 2 turns there. If you don't get the turn in right on a lower downforce setup, it can be trouble. It can be tough to hang on to throughout the back half of that chicane. And then, of course, the Parabolica. You got to be able to keep the nose in tight. And once again, without a whole lot of grip there, it's going to be a trouble corner.
So all about how you can deal the slow parts to make yourself fast on the fast parts, I suppose, is right now Jukka Tolinen and Pauli Partanen have been fast everywhere on the first 2 races. They've taken a 1-2 in both of the first 2 rounds. Topi Kortiniemi, trying to follow them, has also been in 3rd on the first 2 rounds. So it's been basically Finnish domination at the start of this season with Raina down there in 4th. And then finally, Jason Clapper jumping up into the top 5 despite never qualifying, is his claim to fame. Timothy Reed sits in there behind him with Phil Reed, the controller king, having a bit of an up and down season so far. We'll see what he can do here. And you can see we still have 2 more Finns in our top 10 of the F1. So they are really coming at us today. As let's take a look at the F2 standings in the meantime.
It's just been consistency for Sam Ryman up top right now, leading 12 points over Peter Konechny. But something to notice, Peter only has 1 race scored. So Sam has 2, Peter only has 1. Going to have to come into play a little bit later in this race. Also, good consistency out of Shady Ahmad as well as Jared Forkolb. Then the rest of the F2 championship just starting to really take shape. Andrew Thomas, Pablo Suarez. Unfortunately, I think Cam Porter's not in today's split, so we're not going to see him take any racing action, but they will still score points from that other split.
Yep. So this is going to be fast in more ways than one here, with this being top split, but it's going to be 24 laps regardless. And it is open setup in this series. You heard Joey talking about trying to get the car as trimmed out as possible in this race. That's going to be the talking point there. They also don't have a spare car if you get any sort of damage. And honestly, if you do anything to the car, it's probably going to slow it down in many different ways, either through straight line speed or in the valuable corners. So watch out for anybody who has just anything that goes wrong with the car. It's going to be a nightmare for them the rest of the race. Drive-through penalty at 17, DQ at 25. There's definitely a couple spots where you got to watch out for those track limits around here as we watch on board with Parton in the first one to set a time. He's not going to hold the provisional pole on this first lap, as it looks like Tolanen's able to beat him by the tiniest of margins.
28.71 to a 28.74. You're right, only a couple hundredths of a second separating these two as you blast off into what is the first chicane here at Monza, and you see how loose the car is even coming into that first chicane.
Yeah, and that's going to be very tricky, especially on the first lap when the drivers are trying to get the cars loaded up and everybody's close together out here. But as he works his way now around the Lesmos and out of them towards the Ascari chicane. Let's see how Pauli handles this one as we ride over his shoulder. This is a very swift chicane, so he'll need every ounce of speed he can get out of it.
And if you watch that steering wheel, you just got to be smooth on these lower downforce setups. The best way I can describe it, that big wing in the back, you basically make it non-existent. It's not doing a whole lot of work. What that means is the rear of the car going to dance around a lot on you, going to be very unstable. The smoother you are, the better off you are.
So he comes back around. He needs a quarter of a tenth of a second to beat Jukka Tolvanen, who's going to follow him across the line. And it's a 28.5. That's quicker. Tolvanen, 28.3. So he's going to take it right back immediately after. And Topi Kortaniemi, could he spoil the party? He's going to be the next one across.
Jump back. This is Pablo Suarez coming around the Parabolica to complete his lap as well. These drivers have 2 laps available to them, but honestly, most of them are already putting in their time. Topi Kortaniemi up to the P2 spot.
Maybe he could keep up with them today. I mean, of all the tracks where he's got a good chance to try and hold on and spoil this party for the teammates, this could be a good one, Joey.
Yeah, and the other one that just threw down a time, actually a couple, Jack Crawford there in P4, and I was noticing Peter Konechny P7 in that number 16 car.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good there, Peter, on this track. Let's see if he can get some iRating today. We're watching Pablo Suarez in the meantime in the number 20 machine, currently down 19th. Well, make that 20th, actually, as he just got displaced. And Peter Konechny here is about a second off the pole time. Considering how few corners there are, that's kind of impressive that those drivers have managed to find a second over 7th place.
It's pretty wild for sure. I'm happy we're looking at this blue car, though, of Peter Konechny. Remember, I said that he was in that F2 championship, Joe, and he only had the single race scored, and he's still sitting in 2nd place. So I have a feeling that Peter might be a little bit of a sleeper in that F2 championship when it comes to the end of the season.
And Crawford has now gone up to 2nd. He's hit a 28.552, so there are still drivers that are able to sneak in here and upset the standard order for this series. Konechny, what is he going to have on the second time around? Are the tires coming up to temperature on the second lap? Is that why we're seeing so many go quicker? 29.1, that's going to make him faster and up to 6th, but that's only a single position.
But that puts him ahead of Mikko Leno out there just behind Juho Raina. So what a qualifying effort as we jump back to the orange and white car of Barry West, the number 12, going through the Ascari chicane. And I think that Barry's just turning some practice laps out here. We'll see if he actually banks this lap time.
Well, he missed his first one. He must have had an off track somewhere. and is going to try and come around to take the second one. He isn't typically the kind of guy to avoid taking a lap, so let's see if this one will count for him. He stays within the limits, coming around Parabolica, and as he crosses the line, no, this one is deleted as well, so no lap time for him or Keith Herner. They're both going to be gridded at the back of the field. Looks like we've got our starting grid ready, and Tolanen, as we said, with another pole position over Jack Crawford, actually. So will we have a non-Finn win in the third round? Topi Kortaniemi will start from third, and Pauli Partanen P4. Then you've got Juho Raina in fifth position, and Peter Konieczny in sixth. Then Mikko Leno starts from seventh, followed by Jan Polodniewski on the outside of that row. Jean-Francois Boskus in the ninth spot is flanked by Dylan Freckleton in 10th.
Then on row number 6, we have Miguel Moreland in 11th place, next to Kostas Safiris here in 12th. Nathan Finnegan in 13th, Shady Ahmad in the 14th place spot. Pablo Suarez in 15th, Yanni Lehman in 16th. Row number 9 consists of John Stevens and Daniel Banker in 18th, and then row 10 has Seamus Power and William Doyle in 20th.
21st goes to Jason Clapper, first of the non-qualifiers. Barry West behind him, Sam Ryman and Keith Herner rounding out your 24-car fields, and we're waiting for a number of our front runners to grid up here. It's pretty good track temperatures, 83 Fahrenheit on the track surface itself. Very little wind to speak of, so should be ideal for the drivers to try and race today and find some grip out there. But it's going to be maybe a little less about the grip and more about that top end today.
I think the other thing, we haven't talked about it, this standing start, if you don't get going well, you are going to get swamped because we're not running that first chicane. It is an acceleration zone all the way around that sweeping turn number 1 up into that other chicane. So got to be careful, hit the start. If you don't get a good one, that's okay because you still got the draft to pull you along. Just don't get a bad start.
All right, looks like we're now waiting on Tolanen and Partanen to grid up. Otherwise, most everybody is out there at this stage. Pretty decent-sized fields to give us some action out there, as Bosca is going to be the last one. Here we go. Looks like the engines start to rev as the lights come up for round 3. And the green flag is out as they accelerate away. Oh, it's a bad start there for Crawford in the second phase. Oh, and a spin off to the side. The cars are thankfully going to move off the racing line. Everybody else avoids, but unfortunately, 2 of the front runners finding themselves at the side of the track.
I think that was Juho Raina involved in that one on the front straightaway, but it's all Jukka Tolanen and Topi Kortaniemi. Jack Crawford is well involved inside that top 5. I see Jean-Francois Boskus duking it out as well.
Down into the first braking zone here into De La Roja. A little bit of side-by-side, but otherwise relatively orderly, especially compared to the first chicane typically. And it does look like Peter Konieczny heavily damaged, unfortunately, at the side of the road. He comes to a halt and takes a tow. Tolanen leads, Partanen's in second. Crawford has lost second place and is down to third.
There's just a little bit of wheel spin from Juho Raina off of that start, but look at this, single file for the top 4, but then it really gets busy. Linos trying to get away that 5th place position through the Ascari chicane for the first time. Careful, get those tires up to temperature. They're still getting there at this point.
Oof, he's got a very good run on Jean-Francois, and he's going to go around the outside as they head towards the Parabolica. Easy pass for him, as Mikko is now back into 5th.
Look like Jean-Francois Boskus might be running a little bit more wing in the car, or might have a little bit of damage on that number 8, but he is getting eaten up in a straight line, and I tell you what, Miguel Moreland is next up right behind him in the draft.
They fly down the front stretch for the first time at full speed now. Let's see who plays the game of just waiting patiently to the end and who wants that track position. You can see some of them poking their nose out until they get up to Curva Grande, then they all dive down to the apex.
It's still a little tricky forgetting that first chicane there at Monza and just keeping your foot flat to the ground. I also see Costas Safiris trying to get around Nathan Finnegan as well. I mean, this is only lap number 2, and I have a feeling these draft trains are just going to stick the cars together the whole time.
Yeah, it's starting to look like that's going to be the situation, but we really expected that here, especially without that first chicane. As we fly down towards the Ascari chicane, I do love this camera that Dougie set up. Really gives you a feel of what it's like trying to drive these cars. And as we weave through that final chicane of this circuit, it's still about 0.7 of a second between Yuka and Pauli. So things did return back to normal from what we've seen in the first 2 races, but Crawford's not completely out of it.
Well, he's still hanging on there, as well as Dylan Freckleton. A heck of a run so far for Dylan Freckleton. We haven't mentioned him at all, but he's already up +6 positions into the top 5. So he's doing really well out there. I'm curious, are Yuka and Pauli going to run away? Because they're already up to 1.4 seconds ahead of that number 3, Jack Crawford. If they break the draft, oh boy, it's trouble for him.
Yeah, it's looking like they're just about out of that range. Let's take a look at the start while we've got time here. And I think Peter Konieczny was one of those involved in this.
Yes.
I did see a blue car go off. What exactly happened here? Oh, they just weren't paying attention, unfortunately.
So Mikko Leno had wheel spin. I'm sorry, not Mikko Leno. Juho Raina had some wheel spin on the first to second gear upshift, and unfortunately Peter Konieczny was right behind him. And this is Topi Kortiniemi. Remember, he was all the way up there fighting for the lead, and this looks like around the first Lesmo just goes wide.
Off course, a sort of a silly mistake, but maybe just wasn't quite paying attention to the grip that the tires did or did not have. So Peter on his way, and Carr also doesn't want to turn. So off he goes, figures, all right, not going to be able to drive it back in the meantime. Then we've had something happen with John Stevens. Now this I have not seen or heard of.
It's a little bit further back, but I can still tell it's one of the first laps and just maybe loose on the second Lesmo exit. Maybe just tires not up to temperature yet.
I have a feeling it's going to be difficult to get them up to temperature. There's almost no turns around this place.
You're right. In terms of getting load into the tire, getting that friction, you're pretty much going in a straight line. Now, the tires do warm up due to speed. However, it's not like you're weaving on the front straightaway, putting that temperature, putting that load into the tire.
On board with Dylan Freckleton, up 5 positions already. We're only on lap 4. Made most of those up on the opening lap. In front of him, that is Mikko Lino, who is fighting for 4th. If they don't fight each other too hard, though, Jack Crawford's not that far ahead as well. So there still could be a podium on the cards, depending on what their race pace is.
Kind of exactly what I was looking at here with Lino being able to clear Freckleton. Let's see what his lap time is this time around, because it was pretty much identical to the car in front, Jack Crawford, this previous lap. But I have a feeling Mikko's going to start to reel in Jack Crawford.
You know, in spite of all the problems that we had at the start, Konieczny and Reiner are the only 2 that are in pit lane right now, and we don't have any official retirements yet. Kortiniemi going to try and get another one here, and that's Nathan Finnegan that he is disposed of, and moves him up into 8th spot. He's going to be kicking himself for that opening lap mistake, though. I think there was a lot more in the cards for him.
I think so, too. And Costas Safiris trying to come back here, go up the outside, the left side of Seamus Power down into the Parabolica. See how much Seamus fights it back. And side by side, this is a tricky corner to go side by side in here in these cars, because it leads out onto another drag strip straightaway. Another side by side battle for, oh gosh, Joe, what, a mile down this one?
Something like that. It's a long ways, yeah. And even at the end of it, you're not braking. It's just flat out all the way through Curva Grande, and they're still wheel to wheel. Inside, though, to Power. That's going to give him the advantage. Shorter line here, and you can see Zafiris immediately has to fall back.
It's one of those corners that you can physically see the shorter line is the faster way around the corners. Not every corner in motorsports do you actually get to see that. Sometimes it only comes up on data, but Curva Grande, it happens every single race.
And again here, this is Miguel Moreland down in front of him. Looks like Kortiniemi's already past the number 19 impressive stuff, the way that Topi is slicing through this field. Moreland is currently running 8th out of with a 19 on him. As here is the pass. Yeah, very straightforward stuff. Just pulled the slipstream and whoosh, he goes by.
And I'm looking at Topi's lap times of 129.8. So if you go up through timing and scoring, that puts him inside the top 5. He's already on the back of Jean-Francois Boscus for 6th place position. So I have a feeling Topi, as well as Mikko Leno, they're going to continue to move forward.
Back with Finnegan, and I think he's waiting for the front stretch, because coming into Parabolica, that was a big old lift to try and set himself up. Maybe a little too much, because he dropped well back of Miguel.
I think the strategy right there, if you're Finnegan, if you pass him going into the Parabolica, can Miguel Moreland just pass you right back in this huge draft straightaway? So, Joe, I think you were right. He's just waiting for the opportunity to make the pass at the right moment.
And then behind them, Power and Zefiris are going at it again, with Polonewski just behind him, and a very similarly painted car to Power, but he's going to have to stay patient because there's just no room to try and sneak by either of them for a 3-wide moment. So Costas, once again, pulling out of it, but now he goes for the over-under, trying to get inside of the first Lesmo. Doesn't quite work.
Yeah, but this is 4 or 5 cars involved in this one, so this battle has definitely condensed into a nice little chunk here on the racetrack coming out of the second Lesmo, and gonna have to see if he gets another good run. Actually, both of these cars, as we check a replay of what happened to Pablo Suarez on the racetrack.
So side by side down into De La Roja. They're gonna give each other space. Ooh, and unfortunately gets edged out in the end and has to try and trundle his way back on the track in the gravel, which definitely slows you down a lot more than it used to.
He's riding on board Costas Zefiris again, still hunting down Seamus Power. Now, Joe, we've seen the previous 2 laps side by side down this straightaway. We gonna see it again?
I'm starting to get the sense that Costas is even or has more downforce than Power, because watch this, he'll get alongside, and he's even given him the inside here, but it feels, yeah, look at him just stall out. He's got the speed, but pushing that air, he just doesn't have enough.
You're right, but we're going to see if the shorter distance around Costa's going to maybe get clear here of Seamus Power, but it's all going to come down to the braking into the chicane, and Seamus Power once again just dominant on the brakes.
Oh, but he slipped up a little bit. It looks like he's going to try and come back at him. And no, can't quite do it. Did something happen to Konechny here? Oh, he's gotten back out on track once again, but I do see that he has since retired the car. So guessing it wasn't at 100%. Did he just pull it over again? Yeah, looks like he's pulled it over and parked it. So real shame for Peter, but I think he wanted to make sure he wasn't a danger to anybody else, especially at such a high-speed track.
Agreed. I think that's the right thing to do. But the other thing that caught my eye, looking down, timing and scoring, Juho Raina is also back out on the racetrack. So despite that opening little mishap on the standing start, he is trying to go back out there and collect some points.
Topi Kortaniemi's now gotten by Dylan Freckleton and reached the top 5. This is pretty impressive from that number 1 car as we come back to our leaders. Partanen versus Tolinen. Now, Pauli has not been able to beat his teammate yet this season in the first 2 races. He had good opportunities in both, but the second race at Bathurst, obviously, Yuka started to pull away, especially at the very end. Is this going to be easier this time for Pauli to keep him within range and maybe try to snipe him at the end?
I think the biggest difference I'm seeing right now, Joe, is this is almost a little battle. They usually are playing the chess game of the fast lap, swapping it back and forth and waiting to the end to really make that move. But I'm seeing Pauli go up there and fill the mirrors of Yuka. I kind of like it.
Oh, we missed Costas finally making his way past, and I think this was helped by Power making a mistake. Wonder if we could pull up a replay of this one, because this has been a long time coming for Zefiris.
This happened down in the second Lesmo, I believe, so this is going to be set up. Costas is going to look down the inside here in the chicane, maybe just fill the mirrors a little bit, and Seamus Power got a bad run out of that chicane, and if you stick on Seamus, He's going to run wide here in the first Lesmo, I believe, also get off the track.
Yeah, Polodnewski, I think, has demoted him as well at this stage. So did he make another little error?
No, I think it was the first chicane. I think I miscalled that one.
Okay, so he was already past him then. Very similarly painted cars. It's hard to tell sometimes in the thick of the action. Speaking of which, here we go. A little bit of a look from Partonen coming down to De La Roja, but it's not going to be able to do it.
I'm loving it. Like I said, we usually see these two just mind their P's and Q's out on the racetrack, but today it looks like they've brought their boxing gloves.
This is what we've been wanting to see. They're usually very closely matched to one another. And these slipstream tracks certainly make it an even tighter fight between them, but Partonen backs off just slightly on his teammate and falls back to about half a second. Expect that to close right back up. They are approaching Juho Reina, who's going to go a lap down here. Remember, he's got damage, so he's just trying to collect whatever safety rating he can from here.
I think that Juho would be plenty happy to tag onto the back of the front pair and just act like he's in third place and have some speed out there. And something that caught my eye, Joe, Topi Korteniemi, currently the fastest car on the racetrack and laid down the fastest lap of the race that last time.
Plot thickens. This is going to be perhaps another what if for Topi, though. Just can't seem to keep himself in contention for the win all the way down to the finish as we go to Jason Clapper, up 7 from the beginning. Jana Lehman to his outside down into the braking of the Parabolica, and it looks like he can't quite keep it away from Jason, so move him up to 14th.
Next car on the list for Jason is about a second and a half up the road, Shady Ahmad, as we continue to watch the lead. And we always talk about the big mover with Jason Clapper back there, Joe, but I also see that Seamus Power, despite that little mistake, is also up +7 positions, so he's got some competition today.
Yeah, it certainly seems like Seamus is on a good one here as we're riding on board with him. Watching him now down into the De La Roja chicane at this stage. Going to give a little bit wider berth to that sausage curve on the exit, and thankfully does not tip the car into the air this time.
Well, and those two names that I was just mentioning, those big movers, Jason Clapper and the current car, Seamus Power. Jason Clapper is actually about to catch Seamus Power, so that battle for the biggest mover, it might end here in the next couple laps.
Well, right behind them, William Doyle and Daniel Banker fighting for 16th position. He's pulling on him, but not much, so I'm guessing that Daniel has trimmed out the car a whole lot more than William here, and that's really helping him, frustrating, unfortunately, the 423 driver as he gets close down through the chicane.
Kind of balked him going out onto the straightaway, though. You see him just lose all of that forward momentum, has to sit literally in the slipstream. Almost looks like a shadow there, a yellow shadow. Oh, it kind of orange is the new black on the screen now.
Yeah, should be switched around. Daniel Banker's in the dark-colored car, but man, he gets a great exit coming off of Parabolica. Now renamed Alboreto, but Jeff asked me, it's always going to be Parabolica. And big blank, unfortunately, for William. So he's got some internet connection issues on top of things.
Jumping up, this is Miguel Moreland going around Nathan Finnegan here for the 8th place position. So move Miguel Moreland up into 8th, +3 on the charge. But looks like Finnegan's not quite over with it yet. Ooh, going to attack into the first Lesmo. Forces Miguel Moreland off the line a little bit. That's going to open the door. Costa Safira's inserting himself into the battle.
And he takes it quickly, but he's poor off the corner. Fighting back, Finnegan could have an opportunity. Looks like he had to check up a little bit. Here comes Zafiris once again, round the outside of Moreland, who's been struggling on this lap. 3 wide, though. They're going to go into the braking zone as they go into Ascari. It looks like 2 positions lost in a single corner for Miguel.
Yeah, that was aggressive from Nathan Finnegan to go all the way down the inside, literally against the grass to make that move going into Ascari. And now we ride on board with Jan Poledski here in the 11th, attacking Miguel Moreland. He just can't get him out of the mirrors right now.
Couldn't quite get through Moreland in the meantime. You know, not only a great move there from Finnegan, but Zafiris not only outbraked them, he's running away, and it's only been 2 straightaways.
He had the nice racing line, the natural arc going into that Ascari chicane, and you're right, it kind of was a log jam behind him. It got choked up, and he just took off.
Back up to the lead, parting in on Tolan, and he gets close once again. He keeps getting right up there to that gearbox. And like you said, we've seen games from them before. So is Pauli waiting? Is he biding his time? Or is this just him being teased by the slipstream?
I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to know unless we get inside their team channel, because whenever we interview them post-race, they're always laughing, giggling. They know they have a plan, you know. But when does one of them say, you know what, I'm going to toss that plan out the window?
Well, we did hear them say that they had an agreement. It was the last 2 laps at Watkins Glen. I got a feeling it's going to be similar here today if they are working together, that come those last 2 of the 24 laps, we could see them try to break into a fight. They're already about 4 seconds ahead of Jack Crawford, so they've put themselves decently out of range here. We come back to Barry West once again, sitting in 19th, trying to chase down Suarez, who has a bit of a poor exit.
Remember, Pablo Suarez had the problem earlier, and Barry West just deciding to sit in the draft, wait until the end of the straightaway. And usually what that tactic shows, Joe, Barry West, a little bit of a higher downforce setup. He doesn't want to get into the clean air until he absolutely has to and can make a move.
He's trying to use it on the exit of the corner, and it's just not working. You can see he has to get back into the slipstream. And this is a bit of a longer straight than what you see on the run to the Parabolica, so maybe this will give him enough. No, he's still dropping back. So yeah, all the drivers who have elected to try and put some downforce in it to help it handle better are really paying the price today.
My racing brain is having timers go off left and right now, Joe. Topi Cortignani continues to be the fastest car on the racetrack. We've been watching Yuka and Pauli just kind of set the pace up front, but Topi, he's over a quarter of a second faster per lap than our leaders. And trust me, the car that he's catching right in front of him, Mikko Leno, is on almost the exact same pace. So 4th and 5th, definitely reeling in Jack Crawford.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that if we get a battle to decide who's the last step on the podium, because it's looking pretty clear who's going to be the top 2. But if we could have a question mark on the final step as well, that should certainly make it a fun time here as Cortinimi takes another fastest lap. William Doyle on board, chasing Daniel Banker. They both passed Janne Lehmann, because he had a bit of a moment there last lap where he just about ran into the back of one of the cars. I'm not sure which it was, but had to cut through that first chicane. Here we go. Good run from Doyle.
Try to stay in the slipstream as long as possible. But once again, I'm seeing William Doyle, this yellow car. He has to be running a higher downforce than the car we're riding on board with. He's just not making any progress in the slipstream when you should be able to.
Yeah, falling back when he's as close as he is a bad sign if you're Doyle. As they break down into De La Rosa now. Looks like he's not going to be close enough to try and outbrake him. That might be his only hope, honestly, is just get close enough that he can just chuck it in there.
And if you're watching this and you ask, well, why aren't they running a lower downforce? It's better on the top speed. You need it here. Well, when you run a lower downforce car, it is not very stable. It's nervous underneath you. And so if you want that confidence, if you need that stability to go out there and attack the track, well, you need downforce in the car as well.
Yeah, to get those speed on the straights, you need to carry the speed out of the corners. So I guess in some ways it can be a bit of a trade-off when you're alone, but you're not alone when you're in the race. And unfortunately, those who have not been able to find that comfort are now finding themselves in a very awkward position. By the way, Clapper and Power have finally met and are duking it out for the most gains, but Clapper has the edge at 8 up currently, but let's see if he's going to make it 9 as he dives to the inside.
And it actually looks like he might have a little bit of an edge on that top end speed, 189, 190 miles an hour. You know, I haven't looked at what they're topping out at yet, but 195 miles an hour entering the Parabolica. Or, I'm sorry, Curva Grande.
That is mighty fast, and consider the fact that you look at the Lotus 49s, they're doing, I think, usually about 209 or somewhere around there. That's without any wings. And with all the downforce of this car, and with the same engine, they're getting very close to matching their speeds.
This goes to show you how efficient we've really become to making these race cars as we watch Yanni Lehman here on this replay coming through the second Lesmo. Looks relatively calm through there. I think it might have been a little bit further back that he had his big moment. But Joe, to get to your point, yeah, just the cars, they're so much more efficient nowadays.
So, looks like we couldn't quite find that moment he had going through there. But, yeah, that has put him backwards into 16th position, unfortunately. Lost 2 spots easily on that one. By the way, the lead back down to a 1/10 of a second between Tolan and Partanen, but they're not swapping around. It looks like he's going to sit behind his teammates still, and we're down to 9 laps to go, edging ever closer to where things could suddenly pop off between them.
And I think this battle for the third place is continuing to condense ever so slightly. I have a feeling, Joe, it's probably going to be about maybe 4 laps to go or so when both Leno catches Crawford and Courtiniami catches Leno.
Oh, did something happen to Seamus Power? He's a lap down and in the pits. He had something major happen that has taken him off track, and it is not recent. Looks like we may have found it here. So this is coming through the De La Rosa chicane. He's just behind Clapper. So he's recently overtook him. Something happened maybe in the Lesmos. Did somebody have a spin in front of him and he got caught up? Or trying to figure out what exactly cost him the race here. Down into the second one. Oh. Looks like something has gone wrong with his hardware.
And the other thing is Jack Crawford had a massive mistake coming out of the Ascari chicane on lap 16 this previous lap. He has given up 3rd place.
Wow. It has changed very suddenly out there. Oh, but we go back to the leaders. Battle is on for the top spot. They have a bigger gap now. Partanen once again thought about it, but still doesn't quite make the dive. So they're now about 6 seconds ahead of Mikko. This one was a lot more serious than what we saw before. Jack definitely got into the wall here.
Yeah, you see coming out of the Ascari chicane and just have to flirt it so much on that exit. Well, guess what? He overstepped the limit, and you see the consequence.
So watch these sausage curves here. Looks like he missed it, but oh yeah, there's just a bump there on the exit. As soon as it popped the car up, there was just no saving.
So fast, right? You're dancing the car, probably 4th gear on the exit curbs, trying to keep it flat on the throttle. It's a tough section of the racetrack to go really fast on.
And here's the bad news. Jack Crawford has had to retire the car. He is done. Not sure if he had an extra incident or if he just decided it wasn't fast enough to try to carry on here. No, it looks like he did have a second incident out in the Lesmos. So they're starting to drop off a little bit here. This is not a track known for attrition being high, but it certainly is collecting a few.
Let's see what Pauli does. I've been noticing he gets really close to Yuka, but then takes that wide line through Curva Grande with no pressure going into that first chicane. I think they're back to playing the team game, probably at least until the couple laps to go. But, oh, look at this. Topi Courtiniami already attacking Mikko Leno right here into the chicane.
We could see another change for 3rd here as he's got the inside down into the first Lesmo. And surprisingly, I didn't think Mikko would be able to hold on the long way around, but surely he's got to give up here. And indeed, he has to give way to Topi, who's finally back where he started this race.
Well, what I don't understand is how fast Topi Courtiniami caught Leno and then how fast he was just able to dispose of that 3rd place position. Usually we see him at least have a battle for a couple corners.
I think that opening lap mistake has cost Topi a chance at the win here. I think he definitely would have been hanging out with Yuka and Pauli up to this stage. He's only 7 seconds behind them, and you've said he's been faster than them on occasion.
His last lap, granted, it looks like he had an off track, but a 128.4. That's over half a second faster than Yuka or Pauli have gone this race.
Okay, well, he's in the clear air now, so can he catch them up with only 6 laps to go? He needs a second per lap. It doesn't sound like the math adds up on that one. So Mikko says, well, might as well fight him for that 3rd place. Pulls up alongside. Look at how fast they're going among these trees. And as they fly down into the Curva Grande, he is going to be fully ahead.
Yeah, there's that shorter distance around, and then he takes away the braking line from Cortiniami with the defensive maneuver. But once again, Topi's going to try to pull the over-under, get to the inside of the first Lesmo. Is this deja vu, Joe?
It might be, and this time he gets a little bit farther ahead of Mikko coming out of the corner and doesn't even have to worry as much down into the second Lesmo. So Topi is fully ahead, but I get a sense that they are learning valuable information each and every time by.
I think that Mikko's probably enjoying this battle a little bit more than Topi is as they go side by side into the Ascari chicane. Leno around the outside. How did he make that one work?
I think Mikko's got nothing to lose here. Might as well take track position because he knows he's going to get caught up by this guy. So let's make it fun here at the end as we're down to 5 laps to go now, and back through goes Topi. Is he going to have to hand it over here down the main straight, or are they maybe trying to work together to gain time on the top 2?
I don't think that it's advancing their time. Look at their lap time of 1:30.3, so they've definitely lost a lot of pace battling like this. But Joe, I think the smiles inside the helmet, inside the sim rig, they're okay with that one.
Another run down to the inside by that modern Ferrari livery Lotus. And she is through on Topi. Could still see Cortiniami try and dive in down into De La Rosa. And indeed he does. Sends it as deep as he can go. And he's back through into 3rd.
A little respectful out of Lino right there. He kind of let him have the inside. And I have a feeling if Topi's able to have a good Lesmo 2 right here on the exit and also nail the Ascari chicane, he can pretty much say goodbye to the number 4 car.
Yeah, I mean, already you got a pretty good run there coming off of that second Lesmo. Got it up to about 0.4 of a second, 0.5 of a second. Needs to really nail it here out of the Ascari, but it looks like under braking, Mikko's still pretty good. He regains a ton of time.
And he had a big wiggle. Topi Cortiniami, I'm talking about, had a big wiggle in that first section of the Ascari chicane. So I think that the number 4, the red Ferrari schemed car, it's going to stay in the mirrors. It's going to lurk there, but I have a feeling Topi's put his foot down.
He's had enough of this. He's trying his best to get rid of it at this stage as we hop on board with Partanen once again, down to 1/4 of a second up to Tolinen, and we're to 4 laps to go. So we're not quite at that 2-lap marker that we saw at Watkins Glen, but we've been seeing some interesting motions here from Pauli. I get the sense that the number 2 car is gathering information with all these different moves that we're seeing what he can do, how much momentum he has at certain times.
And it almost seems almost kind of like a child out there kind of playing the same card, you know, like the Go Fish card, and then at the end he's going to change it up. We're going to see if Pauli's Partanen's strategy is going to come to fruition.
What happened to Banker here? This is coming into the Parabolica. Does it lose control? It does. Around he goes. Oh, okay, barely taps it. I thought he was going to slam into that tire barrier, but looks like the car is okay.
See if there's any damage as he gets into that green barrier. Ooh, just a little bit here, but I think he'll at least be able to survive. The crucial point, though, did you see him not yank it back out on track? Was able to run parallel with the track on the rejoin, kept it safe for everybody behind.
That's very good to see there from him, and didn't try to interrupt anybody else's race. Here we go. We haven't seen this before. He's now covering the inside. Tolinen thinks that it's on. He'll move back to the racing line, but Partanen is pulling on him, and fast, but he lifts before they get to Curva Grande.
See, Yuka decides the inside line once again, the quickest way around Curva Grande. Pauli Partanen just sitting in the tire tracks right behind the number 5 car. When do we get to see the moves come out? When do the cards start to get played? Because with only about 2.5 laps to go, you're running out of time, running out of opportunities.
Those curious about the hard charger and how that's going, Clapper now easily has it. He's up 11 from where he started into the top 10. Remember, sitting 5th in the points. This is going to hurt him a little bit here today, but still mighty impressive out of him as we come towards the Ascari chicane. 3 laps to go. So this time by the line, we'll reach where we were at Watkins Glen when things started to erupt.
And you were just mentioning Jason Clapper. Looks like he's actually getting one more position over Jan Polonowski. So move him up inside the top 10 into 9th. Another position gained.
Jan was trying to fight it as much as he could, but could not keep him back. The leaders now around the final turn and onto the main straight. Almost looked like a little bit of a slip up from Pauli, unless he was trying to back himself up to get the run here, get that momentum. Let's see how much he gains as they get the 2 to go signal.
Let's see, does he lift? Does he make a move? He's going to go to the inside this time. This is going to be the change for the lead. Pauli Partonen has the shorter way around Curva Grande. He should clear his teammate by the exit, but Jukka Tolvanen hanging tough on the outside. I actually wonder if they're running different downforce levels, Joe.
Round the outside of the first apex, he's got it, but a cutback from his teammate Tolvanen brings him to the inside, down into the first Lesmo. They are truly battling now to try to decide who is going to win this race. On the inside, Tolvanen ekes ahead, and he's got another right-hander in the second Lesmo. He is now through.
And not as good of an exit, but Pauli Partonen firmly in those tire tracks. He's going to look driver's right. That's going to put him on the wrong side of the road going into the first Ascari chicane.
Side by side, down into the braking once again. He's got the inside, but that won't help Tolvanen this time. He gets overtaken by Partonen. Question might be who's going to be in front when they come down to Parabolica. That might decide it. Look here as they approach and a back off from Tolvanen, so he wants to be where he is.
Yeah, I wonder if he's just trying to time the toe right, get him in the moment that he wants to make a pass out there. And here we go. Where is the moment going to be?
This has been our Mercedes, our Red Bull this season. These two have been the two to decide who wins the race. Nobody has been able to keep pace with them all season long. They are neck and neck as they come up to the Curva Grande, and it's hard to tell who has got the advantage on this one until they get to the braking, where Tolvanen looks like it's Partonen, excuse me, on the left-hand side, who has the inside of the first apex. He cuts very deeply onto that. Hopefully he didn't get a cut course. He did not, but they're still wheel to wheel as they come off the corner. Outside, once again, to Partonen.
And now Partonen has an axle ahead of Jukka Tolvanen, but the second Lesmo's still a right-hander. Who gets the better exit? It looks like it's going to be a drag race, but Pauli Partonen edges ahead. He's going to stay on the left side of the racetrack. Jukka Tolvanen give and tow.
Wheel spin for Tolvanen really put paid to that one. Could not get the power down. Tries to break around the outside like his teammate did last time and pulls the same move back on him. You can do it, I can do it better. As they come off of Ascari, what's it going to be? Down into Parabolica. Will this decide the winner, or is Tolvanen taking it with that outside move? He covers the inside, coming down to the braking zone of the final turn. Deep into it, Partonen is able to get himself slightly ahead. Who is going to be able to take it at the line? Who's got the better run? It's a drag race all the way to it. They are neck and neck once again as they cross the line. Partonen is going to be your winner.
2/100ths of a second around the outside of the Parabolica, the final turn of the last lap to steal away the victory from your teammate. Holy smokes, Joe.
I have to admit, I did not think that Parabolica would actually offer a chance for a successful pass, and yet Partonen made it work, going side by side all the way to the line, and that's going to give him the win here today, as it looks like Courtney did get himself that third place in the end.
Oh my goodness, that is what we've been waiting for out of Paula and Yuka. I am so happy at that finish, Joe.
Yeah, and I think they've been wanting it to come down to that as well. They keep trying to save the racing for the very end, and this time they got it. As the last of our 20 drivers on the lead lap is going to finish, that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Monza. I think we got exactly the race we expected out of this one. It was down to the slipstream battles. It was a close one at the finish. And of course, it was between Pauli Partanen and Jukka Tolvanen. But Partanen finally pulled one over on his teammate and got the victory today. Tolvanen took the pole, but had to settle for second. It was Topi Kortiniemi who fell backwards at the very start of the race and eventually found his way back up to third and wound up a little bit behind these two, but still probably too far back than what he would have liked, considering he was much faster at certain parts of this race. Mikko Laino finished behind him in fourth, and Dylan Freckleton gets himself the top five. Zafiris also deserves some credit. 6 positions up for his 6th place finish, and Jean-Francois Boscas in at 7th. Nathan Finnegan finished P8th. Jason Clapper climbing from 21st to 9th, and Jan Polodniewski rounds out your top 10.
Then we have Miguel Moreland finishing in the 11th spot, right where he qualified. William Doyle coming home 12th. Then Shady Ahmad back here in the 13th spot. Pablo Suarez 14th. Yanni Lehman in 15th. Barry West coming home 16th. Sam Ryman in 17th place. Daniel Banker 18th. John Stevens 19th. Keith Herner, your last car on the lead lap, will finish in 20th. Seamus Power did take the checkered flag, 1 lap down in 21st position, and unfortunately DNFs for Jack Crawford, Juha Raina, and Peter Konecny.
And we've got our winner, Pauli Partanen, ready to talk to us about this one. I'm sure his heart's still racing. Pauli, it came down to 200ths of a second. Did you know you could make it stick around the outside of that last corner?
Yeah, well, actually, I was happy that Jukka took the inside line because I knew I'm a bit better at the braking at that corner. I noticed during the race that I can brake a bit later than he can, so I was really hoping he will take the inside, and he took it. And he seemed to have a bit of a slide on the exit, so that really sealed the deal. But that was exciting stuff for the 2 last laps, like one of the best races ever.
It was a thrill from our side, too. Now, we held on to our notes from Watkins Glen, and you guys said it was down to 2 laps to go. You had agreed that you would start battling. Was it the same here?
Yeah, well, we didn't really, we didn't have any agreement this time, but so when 2 laps was down, I said to Jukka, I'm sorry, I will overtake you now. So that was our agreement that day, but yeah, we really wanted to battle. That was for sure. We really didn't want to come home together like 1 and 2 without fight. So that was good. But like you noticed, we race clean and hard, but it slows us down so much. We lost something like 7 seconds on 2 last laps. So we had no chance to start making overtakes before that, because Topi would have been on our behind very well, and he seemed to have a bit more straight line speed than us, So we fear that if we let Topi too near, he will overtake us easily. We have no chance to overtake him. So that was planned for the 2 last laps. Yeah.
Well, that clears up why it was only 1.7 at the end. I didn't even realize you guys had lost that much time. Does sound like we're going to stick around here, Pauli. We're going to bring in your teammate, Jukka. Joey is caught up with him.
Hello,
because we'd love to hear you two together on this part.
Yeah, and Jukka, I want to ask you a question. Were you expecting the move around the outside of the Parabolica by Pauli?
Yes and no. Well, Pauli can do anything. He has already proved that. So I was prepared for anything. Yeah, maybe I was underestimating him there, but yeah, it was a great fight, and I'm happy even after losing it. It was so great fight, but yeah.
Now he said that there was no agreement here on terms of when you guys were going to go race. He just said, now is going to be the time that I'm going to go past. Maybe. Are you going to come up with a game plan for next time?
Yeah, I was not even sure if Pauli was like serious about that. So I was first like, okay, what is happening? Are we really racing or what? Or is he just joking with me? But no, he was not joking, and we started racing harder and lost time more and more. But yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
I want to thank both of you guys because you just put on a heck of a show. You know, I only ask that maybe next time when it's you two out there up front, can we get 10 laps of racing instead of 2?
Yeah, that sounds a good plan. We need to wait that Topi is somewhere very far away, and then we can start doing stuff like that.
Well, Topi was unlucky today, so I don't believe he would have been very far. I think he would have been fighting for the positions as well, if not the first corner. Yeah. So yeah, we cannot really afford that if we want to be competitive. So maybe. Well, let's see how the season goes. If we do like some single races later, then you will see that most definitely. But currently, we may be thinking maybe about the points as well. So.
Well, Topi was the fastest one of 3 of us, so congrats to Topi. Very, very unlucky at the first corner. Yeah. I know that was very easily, but he was faster than us for real. We didn't really have a chance against him at the lap speed, but very bad luck from him.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, but a 128.1 out of Topi at the end of the race there. So you're right, he was hauling the mail. But to you two, Pauli and Jukka, thank you so much. You guys are 2 great characters to have in the Lotus 79 series, and you produce some fantastic racing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that was your top 2 finishers, Pauli Partanen taking the win and Jukka Tolvanen in second. And I believe, Joe, you've caught up with the 3rd place finisher.
Yeah, talking about Topi, I have to say, Topi, I'm impressed that you've managed to get back up to 3rd. You were all the way down to 15th after that opening. Did you expect to reach the podium?
I wasn't sure. Maybe if there was kind of like a line of cars, maybe 2 seconds apart, so you don't ever lose the draft, maybe. But I didn't think about it. I just said it.
So tell us what happened here, because we got to look at it, but we didn't fully see what caused you to go out. Did you just kind of have to make an evasive maneuver, or what went on?
I just thought that because the start was a little crowded, I got with Jack, the P2 in qualify anyway. He was behind me. I thought that if I don't take the outside in the Grande and the inside in the first chicane, somebody else win, and I wanted to take it first. But then again, it's a rookie mistake, and I can barely make it flat out with warm tires and with cold tires. It's just understeer.
Well, a third, and a third. I mean, are you ever going to break this trend? Can you catch those guys and manage to steal a win? You've got a couple more slipstream tracks coming.
I think I have the pace to that. I think just you are your own worst enemy. It's just. That was a stupid mistake of me. I know I had to pace to battle for the win, but sometimes you just do stupid things.
Well, it was fun to at least watch you have to fight back through. I'm sure you would have liked to have been fighting for the win, but congratulations on a podium.
Thanks, Joe.
Topi Kortiniemi, our third place finisher here today, which is going to wrap us up with a big thank you, of course, to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also thanks to the team today, Joey, Ryan, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. But don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Because next race, we're going to be at Road America. It'll be Sunday, October 8th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And we've got one coming up right now because the major Sandown 500 begins in about 15 minutes. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.